May it be an evening star shines down upon.
My name is Eric Atamudzi, the Lion of Judah. A life of gratitude. As I sit in the darkness, my fingers moving deftly over the Braille keyboard, I am filled with a sense of attitude. It's hard to believe that just a few years ago, I was walking around with my eyes wide open, taking in the vibrant colors of the world. But life has a way of surprising us, and one day, I found myself in a situation I never could have imagined. I went blind. At first, it was tough. I felt like my whole world had been turned upside down. But as I reflect on my life, I realize that I have been blessed with so many things. I think back to the blind beggar who used to sit in front of our school gates. He would sing a haunting song, one that still echoes in my mind. Give me money, so that I can buy bread for myself. It's sickness that made me useless. Give me money, so that I can buy bread for myself. It's sickness that made me useless. I remember feeling a mix of emotions whenever I saw him. I would feel sad, but also guilty for having so much more than he did. But now, as I sit in my own darkness, I realize that I am privileged to have so many things that he did not. I have friends, church, some family members, a roof over my head, technology, education. The list goes on. And so, as I begin this journey of reflection, I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to God, to my loved ones, and to the opportunities that I have had. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I will face it with gratitude and courage. As I reflect on my life, I am reminded of the blind beggar who used to sit in front of our school gates. His song still echoes in my mind, and I often wonder what his life was like before he lost his sight. My grandma used to tell me that he was a hard-working man who built his own house before he went blind. She said that he had a family, but they abandoned him after he lost his sight. I remember feeling sad whenever I thought about his story. But now, as I sit in my own darkness, I realize that his legacy lives on through me. I think about the times I passed by him, feeling guilty for having so much more than he did. But now, I realize that he was teaching me a valuable lesson, the importance of gratitude and appreciation. He may have lost his sight, but he never lost his spirit. He continued to sing his song, even when it seemed like no one was listening. And now, as I navigate my own journey of blindness, I am reminded of his courage and resilience. I realize that I have a choice, to let my blindness define me, or to use it as an opportunity to grow and learn. I choose the latter. I remember the day my life changed like it was yesterday. I was in my early 20s, and I had just started my career as a driver. I was full of energy and idealism, ready to take on the world. But then, without warning, my vision started to blur. At first, I thought it was just fatigue or eye strain, but as the days went by, my vision only got worse. I went to see a doctor, and after a series of tests, I was diagnosed with a rare eye condition that would eventually leave me blind. I was devastated. My whole world was turned upside down. I had always defined myself by my independence and self-reliance, and now I was faced with the possibility of losing my sight. I remember feeling like I was in a nightmare, like I was trapped in a never-ending cycle of fear and uncertainty. But as I look back on that day, I realized that it was also a turning point for me. It forced me to reevaluate my priorities and my values. It made me realize that there was more to life than just my physical sight. I began to see the world in a different way, to appreciate the little things that I had always taken for granted. I started to focus on my other senses, to develop my sense of hearing and touch. And I started to see the beauty in the world, even in the darkness. After the diagnosis, I went through a range of emotions: denial, anger, sadness, and eventually, acceptance. But accepting my new reality was just the beginning. I had to learn to adapt to a new way of living. I had to learn to navigate the world without sight. It was a daunting task, but I was determined to make it work. I started by learning computer. It was a challenging process, but I was determined to master it. I practiced every day, my fingers moving deftly over the raised dots. I also learned to use a white cane. It was a symbol of my new reality, but it was also a tool that gave me independence. I learned to navigate the streets, to avoid obstacles, and to move with confidence. But adapting to my new reality wasn't just about learning new skills. It was also about adjusting my mindset. I had to learn to let go of my pride, to ask for help when I needed it. It wasn't easy, but I slowly began to build a new sense of confidence. I realized that I was capable of more than I thought, that I could adapt to any situation. And I began to see the world in a new light. I began to appreciate the little things, the sounds, the smells, the textures. I began to see the beauty in the world, even in the darkness. As I adapted to my new reality, I began to think about my purpose in life. Before losing my sight, I had defined myself by my career as a driver. But now, I wasn't sure if I could continue in that role. I felt lost and uncertain, like I was wandering through a dark forest without a map. But as I reflected on my values and passions, I began to see a new path forward. I realized that I didn't have to be defined by my sight. I could still make a difference in the world, still teach and inspire others. I just had to find new ways of doing it. I started by volunteering at a local organization that supported people with disabilities. I shared my story, offered advice and encouragement, and helped others navigate their own challenges. As I worked with others, I began to see that my blindness was not a limitation, but an opportunity. I could use my experiences to make a positive impact on the world. I also started writing, using my computer skills to create stories and poems. I found that writing helped me process my emotions, reflect on my experiences, and connect with others. And as I wrote, I began to see that my blindness was not just a part of my story, but a catalyst for creativity and growth. By Eric Atamudzi.
shines down upon you. May it be when darkness falls.